stand clear of the doors.
In King West, it used to be all industrial.
Which is like right downtown Toronto.
Right down, one of the hottest neighborhoods currently in Toronto.
Yeah.
But in 2001, it wasn't. In 2001, it was industrial, right? And it was warehouses. And slowly that turned over, and now it's really popular. So, but Taz was one of the first buildings in with their first building. And they built this boutique building designed for end users, focusing on quality finishes. And anyone who invested in early on did extremely well. And they took that same philosophy and they continued to roll it out. Mm-hmm. And so then they focused on Yonge and Finch, there was no development at Yonge and Finch in the early 2000s. And now it's like a whole city center. There's office, there's mixed use, there's retail, there's services. And again, they did this boutique building designed for end users, less supply on the market, and in the overall grand scheme of things, people are taking better care of the building. And then they moved into the Junction, which is an area full of artists and hipsters that's getting more popular, the classic gentrification story, and where values have really started to come up, and where it's well connected by transit. Mm-hmm. And then they moved into Kingston Road and Victoria Park. And now their latest project, the Keeley, is in the Downsview neighborhood. And the Downsview neighborhood has been getting a ton of press over the past year about the amount of potential. And we're right on the verge right now of a tremendous amount of change in the Downsview neighborhood.
So I love the fact that, someone can Google all the buildings that Taz has done, because we know what their fit and finishes are going to be. We know what the reputation is. Right. And now talking about the Downsview area and why we're so excited to bring Keeley condos to our investors. Why Downsview? Like, why did they choose this area?
If you Google Downsview, you're going to see a lot of hits from newspaper articles recently, just within the past year or so, talking about how people have been planning great things for Downsview for years. And Downsview is really on the verge of some major changes right now. So the city has already put in place plans for 5 growth areas surrounding Downsview Park. And we recently last year just had the sale of the former Bombardier lands, the Downsview Airport, which is a huge piece of land.
How big is it exactly?
375 acres, bigger than Canada's Wonderland.
Yeah,
you can fit like 5 major downtown neighborhoods into it. Like essentially we have the potential here for an entire new city core. And when you take away the airport, you also take away the height restriction. So those 5 neighborhoods that I mentioned around the park, those are 5 neighborhoods that the city is planning to have 42,000 new jobs and residences in.
It's so important that you made mention of that, Charles, because as an investor, you're always wondering, well, who's going to be living in these units, A, B, who's my tenants going to be? Well, they're going to be majority are young professionals. We have 145,000 people coming into the Greater Toronto area year over year for the next 10 years. And they're going to be coming into areas where it's close to transit, as well as it's a minute drive to all major highways.
And that's us here. We're a 15-minute walk to the Downsview TTC station and the GO train station. And we're just down the street from the 401. We've got a bus stop right out front. So if you don't want to walk to the GO train or the subway, you can just take the bus right up. And, actually that subway station was part of the subway extension. And so the city of Toronto spent over $1 billion and they went over budget extending the subway line. And it happens to be the subway line with the lowest ridership on the whole TTC network, which actually makes it a target for redevelopment, because the way that the city pays for major infrastructure projects like that is by increasing density, increasing the amount of employees and jobs and workers surrounding that subway station that can pay for the ticket fares, and companies that will pay for property taxes, and buildings, condo buildings and residences and homes that will also pay property taxes. So, but because of that airport, there's a height restriction in place. So with the redevelopment potential of the airport, when you take away the height restriction, you're now talking about an entire high density redevelopment cluster surrounding the transit node, which is just 15 minutes from us. You're also talking about lifting the height restriction on those mid-rise buildings across those 5 neighborhoods. So we go from talking about 42,000 new jobs and residences to talk across mid-rise buildings to now talking about how many people can we fit now into high-rise buildings? How much is that going to change the area? How many more jobs are going to be coming to the area?
And it's so important to make mention that when you're buying pre-construction condos and investing into an area, you want to be there first, because as more buildings come, the values of what you purchased first are just going to go up higher.
more people actually brings more services, brings more restaurants, more specialization. And it's something that we've seen with Toronto, because Toronto's been known as like the condo capital of North America. And as you're adding more density and more population, some people think you add more supply to the market, it brings the prices down. It's the reverse, right? Because the city's growing and it's becoming a more interesting place to live. There's more jobs, there's more people to meet, there's more social interaction, more opportunity with careers. And so it's like this self-fulfilling circle that's self-reinforcing circle. And in the meantime, you're sitting across from what's been coined as Canada's largest urban renewal project with the park. So as the area changes, you've already got the 42,000 new jobs and residences coming to the area, and everything else on top of that is just a bonus, right? Like the plans for the airport, the city's talking about employment. They want to protect jobs and protect employment, but they're talking about high density. Where else in the city do we have clusters of high density office towers? Not many other places.
Other than the financial district downtown, right?
Which is extremely expensive.
Exactly.
So they're talking about starting a new financial business district. And if you're thinking internationally, like where else do you see that? Well, Canary Wharf, for example, London, England, right? So, and if you think about if the city has its way and you get that much employment, all those people want to live close to work. They don't want to commute. So they're going to be looking at the Keeley, and that's very good for anyone who owns here. Now, the owners of the land that bought the land from Bombardier, they bought the airport. So the CEO of Bombardier said, we only use 10% of the airport. There's no point in us continuing to use this space. We'll sell it. They got $817 million. They're adding that to their balance sheets, and now they're going to be leasing at Toronto Pearson Airport. So they have until for the next 5 years to continue operating out of the Downsview Airport, and after that they're gone, which means that PSP, who's the buyer of the land, they have the next 5 years to start the redevelopment process of the airport. And when they do that, it lifts the height restrictions, and that's when you start to see the growth from the 42,000 jobs and across those 5 neighborhoods increase. Plus, you've got that 375 acres that is the airport of potential growth and mixed-use development.